Hello and welcome back to another FPL video. Now of course there is no FPL to talk about because there's nothing going on, but there is fixtures announced. So on Thursday morning the Premier League announced the fixtures for the 23-24 season, so we can finally, well I say finally, it's been like a couple of weeks, have a look at teams that we could focus on for the start of the season, teams that we want to triple up on, double up on, or even completely avoid at the start of the season. Now, I'm not going to go through every team because that's just going to take forever. Obviously, you got game week 1 here for the first lot of fixtures, but we're going to look at 1 to 6 on the top 6 teams, all the teams that are in Europe, and of course the teams that I think are going to be battling relegation this season. Now, I could completely wrong with that, and none of those teams are battle relegation, and they all absolutely smash it. But in my opinion, these ones I just think are going to struggle, and those are the teams that I'm going to focus and put on plays against in my team. So that's what I'm going to be looking at, and then at the end I'm just going to do a quick draft of a team. Obviously completely fictional, anything could have changed, so obviously prices could be absolutely mental. So this could be not my team at all for the first game week, but these are just the team, this is the team of players I think would be great for game week 1 to 6. But like I said, that's completely just a complete guess of what would happen. I mean, even on the predictive FPL.team website it's way overpriced, so I'm not optimistic about that being my team for game week 1 at all. But anyway, let's go into the fixtures. So we'll talk about the Champions League teams first. So obviously, first up, we'll talk about Man City, the champions. Now, their first 6 fixtures, honestly, I can see them winning all 6 of these. I think for the start of the season, this is a real nice season for Man City. Now, I will say first up, between game week 5 and game week 6 is the Champions League's first group games as well. Just thought I'd put that out there. Don't think it's going to obviously hamper Man City, but obviously in terms of rotational risk, game week 5 or game week 6 or both could be real rotational risks. But apart from that, you look at the first 6 fixtures for Man City, they look nice. Now Burnley away, it's Friday night football as well, so that's perfect because obviously we want Man City of all teams, their team news first. So to get that before the deadline looks like it's going to be good, because obviously Pep Guardiola, he loves to rotate in that. So if we get a good idea what team he's going to put out for that first game, we could go 2, maybe even 3 Man City players. Their second game is Newcastle at home. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how Newcastle set up this season. Will they continue to get off to a great start and have a great season again, or will they not have a great season and struggle, maybe get mid-table, because obviously Champions League football and all that, and maybe some players maybe have overachieved. But of course, we don't know who they're going to buy in the transfer window. Obviously, we've seen news articles say they've only got 75 million for some reason, but if they spend more and they spend big and they spend well, they could again challenge, well, at least top 4. I don't think they challenge for the league, but for me personally, I think because it's at home for Man City, it's their first home game of the season, I do think Man City will win that game. So I don't think it'll be too much of a threat. Game week 3, obviously we've got Sheffield United back in the Premier League. I think that's a great fixture for Man City. I know obviously Sheffield United want to obviously get off to a great start, but I think they'll struggle. It's not their first home game of the season as well. Maybe if it was their first game, you'd probably expect maybe a great performance for Sheffield, but I think the fact it's the second game, I think they'll really struggle, Man City. Fulham, it'd be an interesting game, that one, but Man City are at home, I think they'll be comfortable there. West Ham away, I think Man City will be comfortable there as well. Of course, that's where the European football is, and West Ham also have European football as well. And then Forest at home, again, I think that'd be a real comfortable fixture for Man City. With Man United's fixtures, they're a bit tougher than Man City's as they face 2 of the top 6 teams in the Premier League. So, I mean, you could say Spurs aren't a top 6 team really after last season, but technically they're still being classed as it. Don't know why, but I'm going to speak to them as if they are. But yeah, first fixture though for Man United is Wolves at home. Now, this is a good fixture for Man United, I do think. I worry about Wolves already. They're already showing cracks before the season even started about money issues. They've got rid of a lot of their key players over the years. Quite a few have gone. More probably going to go. So it looks bad for Wolves already. I do think they're going to struggle this season. So for Man United, it's a perfect start. Their second game is away to Spurs. So that's going to be a bit tougher. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens to Harry Kane in the summer. Now, if he stays, it's going to be a tough fixture for Man United. I think it'll be a scrappy game. If they sell him, and they don't do, even if they do what they do with Gareth Bale's money, absolutely flop it, then I do think Man United will win comfortably in this game. Even with Kane in the team, I think United could win, be like a 2-1 kind of game. But without him, I do think Man United could win that game 3-0. Game week 3, they've got Forest home. That's a nice fixture. I think United could do well there. Game week 4, though, Arsenal away. This is a massive fixture, and I do see it being either an Arsenal win or a draw. I can't see Man United winning it. Obviously, we'll see how the transfer window goes for Man United. They could sign some great players and go on a great run. We'll have to see how Eric Ten Hag does. But at the minute, with the teams how they are now, as I'm talking, I think this is in favour of Arsenal. It's going to be a real tough fixture for Man United. They then play Brighton at home, game week 5 before their Champions League game. Not a tough, I was going to say not a tough, that is a tough fixture. We'll see how Brighton do in the summer as well, if they can actually get some key players in to replace the ones they've actually sold. But that's going to be a tough game as well, Brighton. I do think Brighton are going to do well this season, even though they are in European football as well. And then game week 6, they've got Burnley away. I do think that's going to be an interesting fixture. We're going to see how, obviously, Vincent Kompany does with Burnley. But by game week 6, I think we'll have a good idea of how well he's going to get on with the league. So you could say on paper it's a nice fixture, that one, for Man United. But yeah, I think they could easily win 4 of these fixtures. Obviously, the tough ones for me are Arsenal and Brighton out of those 6. So with Arsenal's fixtures now, it's going to be an interesting season for Arsenal to see how they cope with Champions League football. Will they get off to a great start to the season like they did last season? I think they will, to be fair. Now, I'm saying that just by looking on paper on the fixtures they've got. So, Nottingham Forest at home is a nice fixture for Arsenal. I think they'll win that comfortably. Crystal Palace away. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how Crystal Palace get on next season. Obviously, Zaha looks like he's going to be out the door. Will they replace him? We'll see. But I think Arsenal will win that anyway, regardless. Fulham at home, I think they'll win that comfortably. Game week 4, Man United at home. I've already mentioned that being a tough game for both teams. On paper, I think Arsenal could just about edge it, but we'll have to see how the transfer window goes for both teams and how they get on with the season. Game week 5, they've got Everton away. I think that'll be comfortable for them. I do think Everton will struggle this season. And then game week 6 is Spurs. Now that's going to be an interesting one. They are at home, but I have a feeling this could be a draw. Just because obviously between game week 5 and 6, Arsenal do have their first Champions League game. So they could draw that game. It's going to be interesting, but I'm going to say it's going to be a draw. So I think they'll win their first 5 games, if not 4, with Man United being a draw maybe. I'd be shocked if they do win, but yeah. With those games, I think that's a decent start. Now, it's going to be interesting, like I said, to see how they do in the transfer window. Will they sign Declan Rice? If they do, that'd be a massive plus. Obviously, will Saliba be back? I think he will be back for the start of the season. That'd be also a massive plus. So I think with those 2 players, I do think they will win Man United's game. And maybe even Spurs game. But like I said, Champions League football changes teams. So that one I'm not so sure on. But for sure, I think they can win 4 of these 6 games comfortably. Now, Newcastle, I mean, they're going to be really interesting this season. Will they be able to continue to play so well as they did, like they did last season? Was it a fluke season? Did some players overperform? Will Champions League be too much for them, as well as Premier League football? It's going to be an interesting season. Now, last time we had a team that wasn't in the top 6 that did get in Champions League football was Leicester City. If I remember rightly, they were about mid-table when they were in the Champions League that season. So you're looking about similar, really, with Newcastle, if I'm being honest. Obviously, a transfer window could change that with signing some great players, but apparently they've only got 75 million, whether that's true or not. That's what a news outlet said. But their first game is Villa at home. That's a tough game to start the season. Villa ended that season really well with Emery. So it's going to be interesting to see if they continue that. But yeah, that's a tough start for Newcastle. Then they've got Man City away, Liverpool at home, Brighton away. That is a horrible 4 set of fixtures for them. So, I mean, I do think they could beat Villa at home, because obviously how well they are. But Liverpool, it's going to be interesting to see how they get on this summer. How many signings will they make? But I do think they're going to come back stronger this season. So do I think Newcastle win that? I don't think they will, to be honest. Even though they are at home, I think Liverpool will smash it. Brighton's going to be an interesting one. I think that will be a draw, if anything. I think they can beat Brentford. Be interesting to see if they make changes before the Champions League or if they make them after. And then game week 6, they've got Sheffield United. I do think they'll win that one, to be fair. So, first 4 fixtures, I do think are going to be a nightmare. I think they might draw Brentford and then get their first win, really. Say first win, second win in game week 6. I think they'll beat Villa. So, I think they'll go from 2 to 5. Not lose all 4 games. I think they'll probably get a couple draws in there and then beat Sheffield United. But yeah, that's a horrible, horrible start for Newcastle for this next season. So here are the other teams that are also in Europe, apart from obviously Chelsea and Spurs. But I put Chelsea on here because I do think they're going to do much better this season than last. Surely can't get any worse. And Spurs, well, if I'm being honest, I'm not sure why I got Spurs on here. I think because Harry Kane's still there, that's why he's on this list still. Because without him, I think they're going to be terrible this season, if I'm being honest. I'm not confident in their new manager. Whenever we get a manager come from the Scottish League, they don't really do that well. They might win a cup, but in the league, they seem to do terrible. So if I was a Spurs fan, I'll be very worried this season. But anyway, let's talk about the Liverpool fixtures. So first game for them this season is the big one. It's Chelsea. That's the big one for game week 1. Massive game at Stamford Bridge. And if I'm being honest, I think it's the perfect time to play Chelsea. I think Chelsea, I mentioned already, that they're going to do much better this season. But I think it's going to take a few game weeks for Pochettino to get his tactics embedded, get his team right, before they actually progress. So first game of the season is probably the best time to play Chelsea. And I do feel like Liverpool will take advantage and they will win that game. We've got Bournemouth at home in game week 2. I think they'll win that one comfortably. Newcastle away, that is a tough fixture for them. I do think they'll probably draw that one. Then you're looking at Villa at home. I think they could win that. Wolves, I think they can win that one. And then West Ham for game week 6 at home. Again, I think they can win that one. So I think Liverpool can get off to a pretty positive start, especially if they do beat Chelsea first game of the season. I think that gives them an extra edge against Newcastle, like mentally wise. So yeah, I think they've got a good start to the season. So definitely be looking at some players from Liverpool this season. But yeah, Chelsea is obviously the tough one. So if you could ignore that one and look at the other 5, I think they're pretty comfortable with Liverpool overall. So I think that's a decent start to the season for Liverpool. With Brighton, obviously, Brighton's their first season ever in European football. So it's a massive season for them. And to kickstart off their season, I mean, you probably couldn't ask for a better fixture, if I'm being honest. It's Luton at home. I mean, if it was away, I'd probably be a bit unsure. But the fact that it is at Brighton, I think they'll win that one quite comfortably. I say comfortably, maybe like 1-2-0 max. I don't think it'll be 3-0, but yeah, that's a nice fixture. Wolves away next game. Again, I mentioned it, I'm not confident in Wolves this season, so I think they can do well in that one. I think they can beat West Ham. Newcastle is going to be a tough one. I think that will be a draw, if anything. United in game week 5, that's a tough fixture. And then, of course, Bournemouth at home on the last game. Well, game week 6, should I say. So, not the worst start for really Brighton. I think, obviously, Newcastle and United in 4 and 5 will be tough. But I do think 1, 2, 3 and 6, they could win those games. So, you're looking at 4 wins out of 6. That's a pretty decent start for Brighton, I think. So, I think they've got a really nice start to the season, to be fair. So, yeah. I think if I'm looking at Brighton, I think they'll get off to a decent start to the league as well, providing they don't lose any more of their key players. Now, Aston Villa's season is going to be an interesting one because obviously they're in European football. So it's going to be interesting to see how they react to European football. Will they do what West Ham did and just fold in the league but win the cup? Now, obviously, last season they had a terrible start. They sacked Gerrard, rightfully so, and brought in Emery. Now, he's a guy that's obviously used to European football. He's done it with several other teams. He's actually won the cup. So he's going to be used to it. It's going to be interesting to see how he gets on with this Villa team. I do think they're going to lose that first game against Newcastle at St James's Park, but Everton at home they should win. Burnley away is going to be a tough one. It'll be interesting to see how Burnley get on the first 2 games before they play Villa, but I'm going to slightly give Villa the win there, even though it's away. I don't think they'll beat Liverpool. I think they can beat Crystal Palace. And then they've got Chelsea. So, that's very much a 50-50. I think that's where they are probably in the league, like mid-table. So, You can see him winning 3 out of the 6, if I'm being honest. Maybe 2, but I probably expect that. But it just goes to show that I probably won't be really that interested in going for any Aston Villa players when I'm picking my team. So then, West Ham's fixtures, not going to lie, they are absolutely horrible when you look at them. If you're looking at game week 1 Bournemouth away, I'm saying to David Moyes, this is a must-win game for you. And Bournemouth away last season was a real tricky place to go to. So if West Ham don't get 3 points there, I can't see 3 points. I mean, maybe against Luton, but even that one's away. Then you're looking at Chelsea, Brighton, Man City and Liverpool. Now, if Chelsea are terrible again, maybe. If Brighton fall off the edge this season, maybe. Man City and Liverpool, I can't really see it. He has to really beat Bournemouth to have any chance. I mean, looking at these set of fixtures for West Ham, I fancy putting a cheeky £5 bet on David Moyes to get sacked at the start of the season, because that is an absolute horrible run. If worst thing that could happen as well is if he doesn't beat Bournemouth, lose Chelsea, then loses to Brighton, and then only draws to Luton, and obviously I think he'll lose to Man City and Liverpool, you're looking at 1, maybe 2 points at the start of the season of the first 6 games. I wouldn't be surprised if they panic and just sack him, because let's face it, West Ham fans were calling for his head last season. They weren't impressed. They wanted him gone. That Europa League conference really saved him. I mean, it's great that they finally won a trophy, and it might actually buy him some more time. But I wouldn't be surprised. This is football. We've seen managers like Di Matteo win the Champions League with Chelsea and then get sacked the following season. So it can happen. I mean, Chelsea's obviously not West Ham. So yeah, it really does not look promising if I was a West Ham fan for those 6 games. And for sure, if I'm looking at bringing players in for my fantasy football team, I'm definitely going to be avoiding any West Ham player. So then with Chelsea, I mean, how bad are Chelsea going to be this season? Surely they can't be as bad as they were last season. That is the big thing from Chelsea that's coming into this season. So the transfer window, apparently it's massive for Chelsea, but I don't think it is. I think they should suck up and keep Lukaku and put him up front, if I'm being honest, because he is a goal scorer and I think he'd actually do well in Pochettino's team. With the fixtures, I mean, Liverpool at home is not easy. I've already said I think Liverpool will win that game. I think it's too early for Pochettino to beat Klopp. He does have a lot of good players, but he's also got a lot of deadwood, I think, at Chelsea. So it's going to be interesting to see how they actually do with the summer transfer window. Will they get any key players in? Will they get this striker they keep banging on about? We'll have to see. But yeah, I don't think they're going to beat Liverpool, so they'll lose the first game in my opinion. West Ham away, I do think they can win that game. But again, this is providing it's not last season's Chelsea. Luton at home, I think they'll win that one. I think they'll beat Forest at home as well. Bournemouth away, I'm not confident with that one. I think they might just edge it. And then Aston Villa at home. This one depends on how the first 4 fixtures, how the first 5 fixtures go for Chelsea. If Chelsea have got off to a good start, so this not counting Liverpool, let's just say they win those 4 games against West Ham, Luton, Forest and Bournemouth. If they play Villa at home after winning all 4 home games, I do think they'll beat Villa. But if, let's say, they lose to Liverpool, they draw with West Ham, they do beat Luton, they maybe draw with Forest, they draw with Bournemouth, I don't think then they'll beat Villa, because I think then we'll see the level at Chelsea are at, and it's just these players that they've bought are actually cack and it's not the managers. So it's a big test for the start of the season for Pochettino if he can turn it around. I do think he will, to be fair. I think he will win those 4 games in the middle. I think he might draw against Villa, to be fair, but I think if Villa do get off to a good start as well, which I probably don't think they will actually, but yeah, it's a tough game, the Aston Villa game. But yeah, Liverpool, I think they'll lose. But those 4 fixtures in between, I think they'll win quite comfortably. So I think it's a decent start to the season for fixtures-wise for Chelsea. And I do think they're going to be much better than they were last season. And on to Spurs then. So honestly, I don't know why I've got Spurs down here. Because, I mean, I do actually know why I've put Spurs down here. Because they're classed as a big 6 or top 6 team. But they've never won a trophy this whole time they've been called a top 6 team. So how can you call them a top 6 team? I think you should put Newcastle now instead of Spurs. Because, yeah, I know if Newcastle got Champions League football the first time, you probably shouldn't. But Newcastle are rich, and I can't see them really going away. If they do drop off a little, I don't think it'll be much. But I think Spurs, this is a massive window for them. If they sell Harry Kane, they're pooped. They'll go nowhere near the top 6, top 8. I think they'll finish at 10th or lower. They've got a new manager. He's come from the Scottish League. The last 2 managers off the top of my head that came from the Scottish League, Steven Gerrard, been sacked, and Brendan Rodgers. Now, he did get 2 top 5 finishes with Leicester, which is really good. He got the FA Cup as well. Where are Leicester now, though? They've been relegated. So, I wouldn't be optimistic if I was a Spurs fan about having this guy in. I've got a feeling it'd be like another Nuno Santos from Wolves. I don't think Spurs are going to play that well at all. I mean, I might be wrong, but I have not much high prospects for Spurs this season, especially if they sell Kane. So, first game is Brentford away. I don't think they're going to win that game, if I'm being honest. Let's pretend that Kane's still there. Well, he is still there, so it's not really pretend. Let's say Kane's still there. I still think that'll be a draw. I know Tony's out for Brentford, but Brentford are not a one-man team. They're a real good team. So, again, I don't think they'll win that. Man United at home, I think they'll lose that game. Bournemouth away, I think they could just win that one. Burnley away. Now, it'll be interesting to see how Burnley have got on in those first 3 games, particularly against Man City in that first game. But on paper, you'd say Spurs, but I wouldn't be shocked if that was a draw. I think they'll beat Sheffield, and then I do think they'll lose to Arsenal. So, overall, you're looking, 3, 4, 3, 6, maybe 8 points. Maybe 8 points to start the season. That's where Spurs are at, in my opinion. So, Spurs fans are going to want to go for Champions League this season. Get that. They think they're a big 6. Well, they're classed as a top 6 team, so they should be challenging. I wouldn't be surprised, let's say they do sell Kane, that they're nowhere near. I think they could be a million miles away. And maybe this golden generation that Spurs went through is completely gone now. And they're back to where they were in probably, the early noughties. Absolutely nowhere near the top. So, this is a big season for Spurs, particularly the transfer window, on how well I do. And if I was their fans, I would not be very optimistic. So then, I said I was going to be talking about the 5 teams I think are going to be battling relegation as well as. And here they are. So obviously you got the 3 that came up, Burnley, Sheffield and Luton. That's understandable. To be fair, there is the odd team every other year, or it's rare, but they do actually smash it in the Prem. They get mid-table and they don't worry about relegation at all. And that could happen maybe to one of them. If it does, I'll probably say maybe Burnley, because obviously they did so well in the league last season. There's a lot of hype about Kompany as a manager. But we'll have to see. For now, though, he's been my bottom 5. We'll have to see, because they've not kicked a ball yet this season, so we'll have to see. And then the other 2 teams got Everton, obviously shocking last season, shocking the season before. This is massive transfer window for Everton, and if they don't buy anybody because they can't or whatever, they're going down. There's no way they can stay up again. They've got nothing in their team at all. Pickford is a half decent goalkeeper. Tarkowski, a half decent centre half. That's it. Arna, probably I'll give him. He's an half decent centre mid. Maybe Decore's half decent. But the rest is garbage, in my opinion. People will go, Calvin Lewin's a great striker. Yeah. When does he ever play? There's no point having a great striker that doesn't play. That's like me saying, well, I might as well sign Cantona. He was a great player who doesn't play. Exactly. The same as Calvin Lewin. But yeah, anyway. I'll be worried if I was Everton. If they don't spend well in this transfer window, they can't go for sloppy seconds. They need to stop buying people's players where they don't want them anymore. Let's bin them off. Who should bin them to? Everton will take them. They need to buy a team's star player. That's what they've got to do. They definitely need another centre half. They've lost Connor Cody. They didn't want him. Mina's gone. They need somebody else to partner Tarkowski. They need a striker. It's going to be interesting, put it that way, to see how they get on. And Wolves, they're completely in shambles at the minute, it feels like. The manager's not happy. Their key players over the last few years are leaving. It doesn't look good if I was a Wolves fan either. So anyway, let's talk about their fixtures. So first up is Everton. Fulham at home. Big game that is already, I think. If Mitrovic starts smashing it and bullies those defenders, I'll be worried. But Everton, I do think they can sneak a win there. We'll have to see. Sean Dyche might be able to set them up decently defensively by that point. But yeah, that's a big game, I do think, because Aston Villa's second game, I don't think they'll win that one. Wolves, that's a big game, like I've just mentioned. Both teams struggling. If they could sneak a win there, I do think they could. Sheffield United, possible win. I don't think they'll beat Arsenal, and I don't think they'll beat Brentford away. So you're looking at wins at Sheffield. If you get wins at Sheffield, beat Wolves and Fulham at home, 9 points from 6 games. If I was an Everton fan, I'll be quite happy with that, to be fair. Any more is a bonus. Any less, and I'd be slightly worried. If you draw to Fulham and beat Wolves and Sheffield United, maybe not too bad. But if you draw with Fulham, draw with Wolves and beat Sheffield United, and then obviously lose to Aston Villa and Arsenal and Brentford, then I'd be like, oh no, we're in for a terrible season again. So it's a big start to the season for Everton, but this transfer window is absolutely massive, Sean Dyche, and let's hope he can turn it around, because the last 2 seasons for Everton has been abysmal. And Wolves, I mean, like I just said, I'm not positive about Wolves this season. It's coming across negative, and like I said, I'll be worried if I was a Wolves fan. First game of the season, well done out, Man United away. I wouldn't be confident if I was a Wolves fan. I do think they'll lose that one. Then they got Brighton at home. Obviously, if Brighton sell all their key players, I'll be a bit more confident. But as it stands right now, I think Brighton will beat Wolves. Everton away, it's away. If I was walking away with a point, I'd just have to be satisfied if I was a Wolves fan there. I don't think they'll win, but there is always a chance. Crystal Palace, it's another away game at Selhurst Park. It's a tough place to go. I'm not confident there either. I think they'll lose to Liverpool and then Luton, and it's away. That's a tough one as well. It's away. The fact that it's away, if it's at home, I'll probably edge Wolves. This transfer window is huge, because I can actually see the manager leaving before the start of the season, the way things sound back there. But if he doesn't, even then I think he's going to struggle if they don't give him the money. They need to give him some money to spend on players, because I think they'll be in the bottom 3 by the end of this first set of 6 fixtures. So lose to Man United, lose to Brighton. I think they'll lose, but let's just say they get a point against Everton, possible points against Crystal Palace, lose to Liverpool, possible point against Luton. So you're looking at 3 points out of 6 games. Does not look optimistic. Obviously, they could probably get a sneaky win out of any of those 3 away games, but yeah, I wouldn't be positive. Obviously, they've got 4 away fixtures in 6 games as well. That don't help them either. But yeah, I wouldn't be positive about Wolves this season. I've got a horrible feeling they could go down this season. Now, as Burnley's fixtures go, I'm not going to lie, they are horrendous for Burnley. First game of the season, they got Man City at home. I mean, at least they're at home at Turf Moor, but to have the champions isn't exactly the best start to the league for them. Do I think they're going to win that game? No, I don't. I do think they're going to get scored. I think this could be a 4-5-0 win to Man City. So if I was Burnley fans, I'd be thinking that's just an exhibition match. Let's focus on game week 2, which is of course Luton away. That's a huge game for both teams. Obviously, I don't think either team are going to win their first game of the season, so this second game is huge for both of them. I don't know. I've not really watched Luton that much. I've not really seen Burnley that much either, to be fair. So I'm going to have to say I think Burnley will just edge it, but we'll have to see. That's a real tough one. It could be a draw. You know what? It's a toss of a coin, that game. So looking at the fixtures, it's probably like a must-win game for Burnley, if I'm being honest, because Aston Villa game week 3, that's a tough one. They could nick a point there, though. I don't think they'll beat Spurs. I think they'll probably draw. Yeah, probably draw Forest and then lose to Man United. So maybe they get 3 points out of those 6 games. If I was Burnley, I'd be happy to get 6 out of those 3 games. But yeah, that is an absolutely horrible run for Burnley. Sheffield United, though, their first 2 games are winnable, to be fair. Crystal Palace at home, that's a winnable game for Sheffield. It's at Bramall Lane. They're going to be absolutely buzzing for it. I think they could actually nick a win in this game. I think they'll be an upset to Crystal Palace. Nottingham Forest away. I mean, Forest were good last season. We'll have to see how they are at their ground this season, but they could nick a point there. I don't think they'll beat Man City. Look, they'll lose that one. They could get a cheeky 1-0 win against Everton, and then I think they'll lose to Spurs and Newcastle. So they could potentially get 7 points, I think, out of these first 6 games. And if I was Sheffield United, I'd be really happy with that. They could even get 9. They could shock us and beat maybe Forest and get 9. Doubtful, but we'll have to see. But yeah, 9 points out of 6 games isn't too bad. With Luton, I mean, first game of the season is going to be a tough one for them. Brighton, I mean, unless Brighton sell all their key players, I think they're going to lose. I know they've lost McAllister, they could lose Casado. They want to bring back their centre-half they had on loan. But even then, losing their 3 players, I think they'll still beat Luton. I think the way they are amazing. So, unfortunately for Luton, I think they'll lose that one. But that second game, massive game. I've already mentioned it. Burnley at home for Luton. They can win this game. I don't know how tight it is. Like I said, I didn't watch much Championship football last season, so I don't actually know the difference in levels between Burnley and Luton. But yeah, you never know. The transfer window could go really well for one of these teams, and one of them could actually win quite comfortably. Chelsea away, though, I don't think they'll win at Stamford Bridge. I'll be shocked. But you never know. We've got Chelsea terms up. It could be last season Chelsea, and if it is last season Chelsea, why not? Why not go for the win, Luton? But yeah, I think it's doubtful. I think Chelsea will win that. West Ham United at home. I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, West Ham need to win that one as well because of their fixtures. So that was a massive game as well. I couldn't really call that one. I might just slightly edge it as West Ham. But I think I'm just being biased because obviously Luton just came up through the playoffs. And we're all expecting them to be terrible. We could be all completely wrong. But that's what we're all thinking. Fulham away, could they nick a point? I do think they could. So I think they could get a point at Fulham. And then I do think they could beat Wolves in game week 6. So if I was Luton, I'd probably try and get 6 points out of these 6 games. So that's averaging a point a game. Any more, I think, would be a bonus. So you're looking at Burnley and Wolves as your 2 must-win games. A bonus, obviously, your home fixture is what you focus on as well. So if you get another win, it's West Ham, buzzing, take a point. And with the away games, you're just looking at getting a point. So if you get a point out of Brighton, Chelsea or Fulham, it'll be a bonus. So those are the fixtures I wanted to look at, what the Premier League announced the other day. Now, I did do a mock team for game week 1. Now, obviously, there's no prices for any players yet, so this is just like a little joke team right now. I mean, FBL.team did do price predictions, what they reckon. And if they do come out like theirs, this is way over the price. This is just basically my dream team for game week 1. So I've got my goalkeepers in Edison and Davis. Davis is just a backup goalkeeper. He's not going to ever play. But Edison, like I said, those first 6 games look great for Man City. I've got a defence of me, Shaw, Eshbalinan and Reece James, as well as a young cheap defender in Johnson of Forest. But yeah, you're looking at their fixtures. Chelsea got great fixtures after game week 1, so that's why I would have had James on the bench. And then you look at the midfield, Matoma, Odegaard, Saka, Foden, Rashford. What a midfield that is. All fixtures look great for all those teams. And then you got Haaland, Jesus and Ferguson up front. That would be my ideal team for game week 1. Now, it's probably going to be impossible. FBL.team website has got this down as being over 9.5 million evaluation, what the budget is. But yeah, this would be my dream team for game week 1 because obviously these are the teams, in my opinion, got the best fixtures. But yeah, the team's going to look nothing like this, obviously. But this is just how I would like my team to look for game week 1. But anyway, that's it for now. That's it for the video. I do hope you like this video, and please don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next one.